Greetings and God bless. So I saw a story, a news article about some Middle Eastern guy that killed. He drove his car into like 8 or 15 people in New York City, killing like 8 people or injuring or something like that. And he had no remorse. He was just like, yeah, I'm on a jihad. This is a religious thing. And so he looks like, what one could consider a stereotypical Middle Eastern terrorist, just, scraggly beard and, um, just looking that way. And you know what I'm talking about. So, it's a shocking story. And, you hear the judge say how terrible it is. You hear how the families say how terrible it is. But folks, we had lockdowns in 2020. People were hostages in their home. Patients were hostages in hospitals and nursing homes. Now it's coming out that there were special killing floors where people were put on vents and remdesivir. So the vents, because these people didn't have congestion, they didn't have any phlegm in their lungs. So what happens when you have a powerful air force, when you're like sedated, heavily sedated, and you don't have any phlegm, but this powerful flow of air is going into your lungs while you're just passed out, trying to restrain. They were trying. They wouldn't let the patients go while they were killing them, basically. So nobody is caring about these hospitals, these nurses, these administrators that were serial killers that killed many people. Stories are coming out. Big Brother on YouTube. You can look it up. I can provide you documentation. There are numerous nurses. Nurse Erin is one. She has a website about whistleblowing about this. So what hospitals would do is the people did not have they had shortness of breath, but they didn't have any phlegm. So they had these ventilators that were shearing the alveoli, those little fingers on the lungs. So they were sheared off. So the lung had no alveoli. The lung had no way of of getting oxygen. So these people were smothered by the destruction of their alveoli, and then they were given remdesivir. So it was basically they were executed. So we are shocked when some guy from another country who hates America kills Americans, and it's a crime. But when our own people, when our pillars of the community do it, we're just like, yeah, okay. They kill like more nurses, doctors, nursing home people killed the most vulnerable Americans than this serial killer, than this mass murderer, than all the shooters. Why? Why would nurses and doctors kill patients? Because the federal government, through the World Economic Forum, through the WHO, there was all this funding. For every CV death, you got up to $300,000 for each death. So the mandate of a hospital or nursing home is money. It's not about health, folks. It's never been about your health, as we have seen. It's not about improving your quality of life. Yeah, there might be some sort of like namby-pamby program that's really hard to get into or whatever, unless you're a person of color who's trans or something like that, um, or an illegal immigrant. But because that's what I find, or if you're a young person, like if you're a high school student or of childbearing age, like everybody wants that. Everybody's a predator for that demographic. I don't know if it's for human trafficking. I think it is. It's some type of human trafficking, getting people a slave to some major debt somewhere, because there's going to be an upsell. There's always some sort of weird upsell going on. So, uh, so yeah, I think people, before you start getting all hysterical, Like I see, there's all these videos about violence in the streets in inner cities and whatnot. But all these people, and I think they're a majority of conservatives. Maybe they're bots. Maybe they're CIA disinformation people or something. But like everybody's like, oh, those people killed, their own people, or those people are assaulting innocent bystanders. So yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible when anybody's attacked. It's terrible when innocent people that are just taking their children to school or whatever. It's terrible when there's an attack or an attempted abduction or an abduction. But all these people who are getting upset about these onesie, twosie, or even, we're in the teens or even the hundreds. There have been thousands of people, their own family members, that have been murdered in hospitals or nursing homes. My uncle in France, he was one of the first people that I knew of. He, like, the hospital in France didn't even notify his daughter until 3 days after, like, he was dead. Like, so they made sure because they didn't want family around, and you know, and then other things happened to other family members. So, and it was all everything was due to everything started after that needle magic kind of a thing. So, I think you guys are such pathetic punks. You're such poor excuses of humanity because you're ignoring the serial killers in your own personal lives, in your own social group. You're ignoring the mass murderers that have murdered with impunity, that got paid to murder people, and yet you're just like, oh, that person is poor, so I hate them. That person is ugly, so they shouldn't be able to kill people. That person. But if somebody's if somebody's a doctor or a nurse, they get to kill people. That's the American way. That's what's gone on. Very few people are concerned about this. I have not met anybody who's very upset about it. I sound like a crazy person because I'm upset about it. Um so, how dare you ignore how I'm sure there's friends or family that have been lured into hospitals or lured into these medical protocols and got injured or died, murdered. And how dare you have it? You don't have a right to judge. You don't have a right to be angry at a serial killer if you're letting like hundreds of serial killers in your local hospitals and nursing homes go free. And I mean the doctors, the nurses, the admins, the CEOs, because they made a rule. They're like, we want this CV money, and we're not going to leave any money on the table. There was like one guy who was able to escape the hospital because he had like, I don't know, a broken arm, or I can't remember what it was, but he was like, I don't have a respiratory infection, but he knew they were trying to kill him, and somehow he was able to, you know, um, not be overdosed or whatever. So, folks, and I think even a lot of Christians have bought into this terrible massacre that's occurred under our very noses. And like the doctors and nurses and admins and CEOs that perpetuated this, and health author like health what are the city's health something, health department, and cities and schools, like all of these people that pressured everybody, people who couldn't really think clearly, people who are just already too busy. They couldn't really, nobody wanted to get no everybody. Nobody wants a needle. Nobody's like, oh, I crave, you know, like unless they're getting some stupid tattoo, and I'm like, what is that about? So, anyways, those are my thoughts, and I don't think like all the people who pushed the needles and pushed the remdesivir and pushed the lockdowns, I think they need to be held to account. And before you start, getting on your high horse about some jihadist killing us or um, some immigrant killing, like illegal Mexican raping people. I mean, those are absolutely horrible things. But what's even more horrible is your best friend has been killing people, a dozen people a month at the hospital, and you don't care. Like that's worse. I'm sorry. Like the media is like giving simple stories and targets for people to be mad at, but and it's like we can't. I mean, yeah, we can be mad at Bill Gates, but what's worse is the person that's our friend or family member that has been executing people, and they're like, "Oh, this is just my job," you know. Like what's so creepy and disgusting and pathetic is like people are like, "Yeah, the Nazis were bad," but don't tell me I'm being a Nazi. Yeah, the Nazis were bad for executing people that they thought were unclean or eugenics or useless. Uh, but don't tell me that tying people's hands down and shearing off their lungs, suffocating them, and giving them dangerous drugs that are known to kill people. Don't tell me that's wrong. And what's worse is like uh, a lot of people don't want to know about this. A lot of people who are just brainwashed into this psyop, they don't want to know that other people were executed. Like and they think like what happened during World War II was bad, but they don't want to realize that it's happened all over again and even worse in America. So it's just craziness. It's absolute craziness. What do we do? I mean, we pray. I'm like, and I know things are going to get worse every week. Some more psychotic thing has occurred. So, what do you guys think? What's your So I think, yeah, praying and having a relationship with God, listening to the Bible, and sharing the good news. And I don't know, maybe we're seeing the wheat and the tares. And for those who don't know, there's people who are God's chosen people, like people who God's saving their souls. And then there's the tares who are offspring of Satan who are going to hell. And it's just surprising how, like, and what's so terrible is like people think they have a conscience, but they have a conscience to some sort of like idol, this archetype that they're like, oh, I would never do that, even though they were doing it, or even though they know people who are doing it. And otherwise, these people are nice people. So um, it's such a stressful kind of like cognitive, like, because I have friends and I'm like, how can you approve of this? So yeah, just got to keep in mind we're in a supernatural um, situation, and yeah, we're just here to wait and have fellowship and share the good news. And I think like we're supposed to just share our ideas. That's why I do this here. If only like only the bots on YouTube are listening, and maybe the Big Brother folks are listening. And if they're listening, like maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing is just talk to these people, because nobody else is really watching my videos. So, anyways, thank you for watching, whoever is. God bless.